air is getting hotter. There's a rumbling in the skies. I've been wading through high, muddy water with the heat rising in my eyes. Every day your memory grows dimmer, doesn't haunt me like it did before. I've been walking through the middle of nowhere, trying to get to heaven before they close the door. Welcome to Songs of Experience, a Bob Dylan podcast where we explore the man and the music, one song at a time. I'm your host, Henry Bernstein, and I'm overjoyed to be in the home of Stephen Rings, author of What Did You Hear? The Music of Bob Dylan. Stephen is a music theorist and associate professor of music at the University of Chicago. His work focuses on musical meaning, listening, and interpretation with particular attention to popular music and song. Stephen's book, which I highly recommend, approaches Dylan not primarily as a poet or cultural figure, but as a musician whose voice phrasing and performance choices carry meaning in real time. So today's episode is a little different. We're going to spend most of our time not so much on lyrics or biography, but on what Bob Dylan is actually doing musically with his voice, his piano, his phrasing, his sense of time, his harmonica. And we're going to be doing this by focusing on the fifth track from Bob Dylan's 1997 critically acclaimed, fan-loved, and award-winning masterpiece, Time Out of Mind, Trying to Get to Heaven. Stephen, thank you so much for being here and for having me here in your home. This is like a true thrill for me.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really an honor
Great.
to do this with you. It's catnip for me to be able to talk about a Dylan song.
We just like start crawling on the walls going like this, yeah.
Yeah. This is a real honor. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Well, before we get into the song, which I'm always like overwhelmed when a guest picks a song that I just love so much, and when it's an album I haven't tackled yet. So we're thrilled to be talking about Time Out of Mind, which sort of speaks on its own as a Bob Dylan masterpiece. I mean, I could say the same for Empire Burlesque and Knocked Out Loaded, but this is kind of in a different realm. But before we get into that, Stephen, what is your Bob Dylan origin story? How did you get into him?
So I grew up in Minnesota, like Bob Dylan, but I grew up in a different part of the state. So he's from the Iron Range in the north. I grew up in southeastern Minnesota, a place called Rochester, kind of a different world. But nevertheless, Bob Dylan is everywhere in sort of popular culture among your friends and whatnot. I remember once, this is the sort of nonsense, like folk wisdom that you'd hear. I did my undergraduate at the University of Minnesota, and there's a water tower on, like sort of off campus, kind of like an old-fashioned looking stone. And I had friends from high school like, that's the Watchtower.
Really?
These were not smart kids. These were the stoner kids, but they figured that everything in a Bob Dylan song must have to do with Minnesota.
Yeah.
For Dinkytown folks, positively 4th Street is not about New York City. It has to be about Dinkytown. There's a kind of parochial Minnesota attachment. So, and I was a guitar player as a kid, my misspent youth playing in bands and whatnot, that was a lot of what I did. And so obviously knew a lot of Bob Dylan then, but didn't really become a fan until the summer of 1991 when this is a very strange story, I was working in a housing service project in rural Appalachia. And that's where I learned how to drive a stick in the Appalachians, and was driving a pickup. And we had one cassette, which was Blood on the Tracks.
Oh, nice.
And so I just listened to Blood on the Tracks all summer.
On cassette?
On cassette.
Right.
Yeah, those were the days.
Wow.
So
After what song does it flip? Do you remember?
Gosh, I don't remember. Because it was one of these, back in the day, you knew you had a good player when it reversed automatically. You didn't have to flip the tape.
So you had stick, but you had an automatic tape deck.
Yes.
Because the tape deck's the most important
It's
thing.
the most important thing.
When I was on Bob Dylan a number of times, Rob Kelly used to tell me about the cassettes, because that's in the early 90s, that's what he would buy. And I came later to Dylan, like in the early 2000s, CDs and such, but sometimes they would mess with the track order.
Oh yeah.
And so like that was like a revelation to me. Like I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yes, you got to know what version you have.
Right.
Sure.
Amazing. So then from there, did like having Blood on the Tracks, was that like your gateway drug?
That was my gateway.
Yeah.
But then it was sort of gradual, and I didn't see him play for about another 12 years. And had a whole different circuitous life. I became a classical guitarist. I was a performer. Lived in Portugal for a while, and then lost the ability to play the guitar. I can play a little bit now, but I've got something called focal dystonia in my left hand, and pivoted to academia and got my PhD, and then when I was coming back, after I'd written a first book that was very technical music theory, I really wanted to return to Bob Dylan for various reasons. And so did that around the time I started here at Chicago, which is 20 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I mean, I started work on this book in earnest about the research for it about a dozen years ago.
Wow.
10 years ago.
So this has been like the labor
It's
of
long,
love for the last...
It has been.
forever.
And, yeah, and, you know, occurring at midlife with all of those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes longer to write with a bunch of kids underfoot and so forth.
Totally.
But, yeah.
Would you say that working on a sort of technical musical book about Bob Dylan increased your fandom or interest in him, or was it kind of a slog where it's like, oh, more Bob Dylan, I got to get through this thing, or was it somewhere in between?
The first one, 100%, and I'm not saying that just because this is your show. No, I mean, I went from being a fan to being kind of an obsessive. It's just sort of took like a virus, you know?
Like it would unlock things, like
yeah,
you
and
hear something.
I would get puzzled about something, curious about something, and there was so much to such a massive archive. Not just a recorded archive, which is massive, but a huge literature.
Right.
And
I mean,
fan literature, fan discourse, so much to dive into that I honestly never had a point where I was like, I'm sick of this subject. I did have moments early on, especially when I despaired of really finding a good way to talk about it. One of the reasons I wanted to focus on Bob Dylan from sort of a purely disciplinary angle is I wanted to talk about music that music theorists, which is sort of my academic home, would ostensibly have very little to say about. Music theorists like fancy chords and fancy forms and rhythms and whatnot, and all the things that you've got these elaborate music theoretical tools to illuminate. Dylan's music doesn't do it that much. And it does a whole bunch of other things that are exceedingly complex and slip right through your fingers.
right.
And so I wanted that challenge. And there were times early on when I despaired. I said, oh, why did I?
What have I got myself into?
This is much harder than I thought it was going to be. So
That's sort of how it is with Bob Dylan. You think you have like an idea like about this sort of simple thing, and then it like the floodgates open, and it's like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
incredible. Well, let's get into the song, because we're here. Some stats about the song. Time Out of Mind was recorded in early 97 and released on September 30th, 1997. I always love when I share these stats, how quick the turnaround is between recording and release. Like Bob gets in there, does his thing, gets out.
Gets it out the door.
That live band feel, you know. Trying to Get to Heaven features Bob Dylan on vocals, guitar, piano, the only harmonica on the album, which I'm sure we'll get into. And the musicians on the track include Bucky Baxter on acoustic guitar and pedal steel, Cindy Cash Dollar on slide guitar, that's like an all-time great slide guitar name, Jim Dickinson on keyboards, Tony Garnier on bass, Jim Keltner on drums, Augie Myers on organ and accordion textures, Duke Robilliard on electric guitar, and it was engineered by Mark Howard. So one of the things I love about the Time Out of Mind credits is all the names of people who have come and go in Bob's world just in modern times, like since then. Like Keltner was back.
Duke was back briefly.
Duke Robilliard, I ever saw him on I mean, and Tony Garnier is the one sort of constant throughout. So, Stephen, why this song?
Well, this was an itch that I wanted to scratch for a while. And honestly, the main reason initially was because of this. He's done a few different arrangements of it, about 4 live. And there's one that he settled into shortly after the record came out in 2000 and 2001 that I think is just marvelous. And I always wanted to dig into that and figure out what's going on about it. But then it took me back to the studio recording also and reminded me of something that I really love in it. There's this little door that opens at one point in the song, and that's the door he goes through in 2000 and 2001 for this lovely kind of jazzy arrangement.
And that's, of course, the one that appears on both Telltale Signs from 2000 and
there's another
Fragments.
Yeah, there's the same one is on Fragments again, but then there's an additional one on Fragments as well from 2000.
And then there's also the different versions, the studio versions on Fragments too, which have like slight
I
variations.
mean, maybe one thing I can say about that. So the first one, I should also mention there seems to be confusion in the Fragments booklet notes. which is rare for the bootleg series. I think generally it's pretty accurate. But it calls the one on January 19th version 1 and the one on January 12th version 2, which I think is exactly... unless there's something about studio version numbers that I don't understand, like we record version 1 a week later.
Time travel.
Yeah. At least this is how I remember looking at it. Folks might look and say, no, Steve is wrong. But the first version is in E major, which is a home base for any guitar player.
Right. It's very similar to G.
Right.
Things have changed as in E minor.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's an easy place for guitarists to slot in. The next take and the album take are in E flat. So this is a semitone lower, and E flat is not a friendly key for guitar players. You can capo, and some people will do that. I don't believe what Duke is playing doesn't require a capo. I can show it. But I think what happened is that Dylan was unhappy with the first version and went to the piano.
Could you play the difference between the E minor and the E flat?
So E major is here, E flat is here. Okay, so it doesn't sound that much different. I'll just play the basic chord progression in both keys, and then I'm going to play where the real difference is. So this is the air is getting hotter. This is in E major. Now the part that I love, and this is where I want to go, is every day your memory grows dimmer, it doesn't haunt me like it did before. I'm just walking through the middle of nowhere trying to close the door. But it's that B section. In this E major version, rather, he does this. Each day your memory grows dimmer, it doesn't haunt me like it did before. This chord is nice, but it's not as good as the chord in the eventual one. And that's where things light up for me and where this song really opens up. So in the eventual version, you go down a semitone, the guitar players are grumbling that they've got to figure out E flat. The air's getting hotter, there's rumbling in the sky. Waiting for the high muddy water, keep rising in my eyes. That's the chord.
That's so yummy, that chord.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So this is almost like the chord the first time, but he's changed the bass note. And this is such a piano thing to do. It's not really a guitar thing to do. The right hand is playing this chord. This is a C minor chord.
Okay.
Anyone who's played a lot of piano, you will have played this thousands of times. But you've got this hand free, waving free. You can change the bass note really easily. And so instead of playing a C under it, this would be equivalent to that E major version. He plays an A natural. And this makes a kind of chord that you don't often hear in Bob Dylan. Jazzers would call it a minor 7 flat 5. There's your minor 7. There's your flat 5. Classical music theorists would call it a half diminished 7th chord. But it's just a really magical sounding, open sonority that then slides back down to E flat.
Okay, so Stephen, I have some questions already about some of the technicality of it, because Bob Dylan on this, is that what he's doing on this record? He's not playing piano.
I don't think he's playing piano, although I've always wondered about the very first piano sounds you hear. Don't sound much like Jim Dickinson to me. It's a little bit, it's the very first sound on the track.
That intro chord, bum bum.
Yeah, it's a little kind of
gruffer, messier, Dylan-ier.
Yeah, and so it makes me wonder. I'm not necessarily saying, though, that he is playing the piano on the track as that he came up with a different arrangement, was noodling at the piano as he is wont to do, and might have come up with this voicing. Then it's also possible that it was Tony, because the note that changes is Tony's note. And so it could have been,
it's the bass note.
It's the bass note. So it could have been that Dylan was playing it and Tony did that and they said, oh, that sounds amazing, let's do that.
I see. Okay, so so Bob here isn't necessarily the piano player who's figuring it out on piano, but he's maybe going over then to Jim Dickinson and saying, like, try this.
Yeah. And then this becomes, until 2017, when there's a totally new arrangement, this chord is always there, and often gets a kind of halo around it in how the musicians play it.
Okay, what do you make of, from those opening lyrics?
Yeah.
You kind of alluded to it, that you said there's kind of an opening of a door. Do you make a connection between those opening lyrics to what is happening musically in terms of the chord progression?
Because, so this is a lyric and a verse that's just set up in a pretty standard AABA kind of form, where we have a B section that's where this fancy chord comes in and where the harmony really gets sort of Hollywood. Just a little hint of Hollywood. And this is where the lyric turns toward the second person, turns toward you.
Okay.
First, it's, about him sort of wandering through the wasteland that is this record. The air's getting hotter, there's a rumbling in the sky, all these kind of apocalyptic images wading through the high muddy water, heat rising in my eyes. Every day your memory grows dimmer. Then it shifts. Then it's sort of like we realize what is possessing him. This fixation on his past. Graylee Heron has this wild reading of the whole album that you may know is that he's murdered someone, and he's on the run.
Right.
He's on the lam at the moment.
Right. Which I love after thinking about that and then thinking of "Make You Feel My Life" and like this crazy obsessive murder song, and not what Adele is singing at all. Later.
And one thing that I feel bad about. I didn't encounter Graylee's book until after this was in copy editing. And so I feel bad about it. It had come out slightly before that. And I wish I could have. The Make You Feel My Love reading is just delightfully perverse.
Yeah.
As
sort of like a Sting, I'll be watching you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. And there have always been lines in that song that have seemed overwrought and creepy.
Right.
But it's so often performed in this saccharine way that you wouldn't know it if Garth Brooks is singing it, or Adele is singing it, or
Billy Joel.
Yeah. But in any case, this is where the lyric turns, where pathos comes through. And pathos comes through in the harmony as well. Also, my favorite line, quoted all the time, you think you've lost everything, you find out you can always lose a little more. Also at this point in the verse. So I think this happens in some other Dylan songs where he gooses the harmony just as a kind of emotional truth is starting to emerge or a mask is slipping. It happens in Don't Think Twice. In the moments when he is, I'm going to fix that. In the moments when he is moving away from his defensiveness and his nastiness, and some vulnerability is emerging. You get these beautiful chords in Don't Think Twice. Same thing in It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. Beautiful chromatic harmonies come in at these moments that, sort of open a door to a new register of emotional vulnerability or emotional disclosure.
I think that's an underrated Bob Dylan thing, that he has both the knowledge, ability, and skill to match high-level chord progressions with what he's saying in the lyrics. That I think that the general consensus is probably from not Dylan nerds that plays GCD and it's all simple.
Right,
I mean, I learned how to play guitar from just going on DylanChords.com and just going song by song. And And then I got to this stuff, and it was a little more difficult. But I think he is operating on a level that's actually higher than we give him credit for.
Yeah, and
you certainly do give him credit.
I do, but I want to be clear also that I think he's a super intuitive musician.
Yes.
And his mode of creation is often not conscious. I highly doubt that Bob Dylan was there thinking, that every day your memory grows dimmer line, I've got to do something special there. I think, he's feeling his way through it, sort of testing in the moment and stumbling on things. So I don't think it's calculated.
Oh, he is definitely, I think, an in the moment person, both in the studio, which I think is one of the many reasons why he is so insistent on that live band quality, because magic happens
That's
for
right.
a live band. And then also, he does things on stage at a concert that it's kind of like what he feels that night. anyone who's seen Dylan a number of times has had those moments where like something magical happened in the moment that wasn't planned. And we at my last episode, I had Michael Glover-Smith and Aaron Callahan on to talk about the Dublin show that we just got back from, and that show now famously is the one where he played Rainy Night in Soho.
Okay.
But Michael was saying that had he not felt it, if there wasn't an energy that he was feeling, he wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Because we've seen many last shows of the tour where he just played the set list and that was
That's
it.
right.
Good night and good
Right.
luck, So I think like that, I think that intuitiveness, I think it's again, he deserves more credit for sort of being able to jam or being able to move in the moment too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned the harmony, and I want to, apologies for those who were on the Bob Dylan book club call when I got a chance to ask Stephen about chapter 1 a little bit, but as you know, Stephen, I'm obsessed with this idea that Bob Dylan is more often than not singing the harmony, often above whatever the melody is, and a higher harmony, in many occasions. So it's like I sort of started thinking about this when I was listening to a lot of live stuff in my Bob Dylan onboarding in the early 2000s with those gorgeous 3-part harmonies with Dylan, Charlie Sexton, and Larry Campbell, and where Bob is often one of the ones singing the harmony, like Charlie's often singing the melody, and then and I think about him, seeing him at a live thing. Certainly, we talked about the up singing. That's some harmony stuff. But it goes back even further. Like you said, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. And then I noticed in Song to Woody when I saw A Complete Unknown, and I'd done a little tutorial on this, that Timothy Chalamet is singing the melody. Bob is singing the harmony on Song to Woody, but it's his own song, and he's singing by himself.
See this world of people and things. Here bumpers and peasants and princes and kings. In the singing, there's a subtle difference. The way Bob sings the third verse, seeing this world of people and things, he doesn't settle on the melody and resolve the melody perfectly. He sings a little bit of a harmony. It's subtle, and he doesn't do it on every verse. The first verse actually doesn't do it that much. Just he kind of sings that, seeing this world of people and things, but it's still a little bit of the harmony, where Timmy on every third verse goes, I'm seeing this world of people and things, and he does it again, seems sick and it's hungry, it's tired and it's torn, I'm singing this song but I can't sing enough.
Are there examples of that in this song? I know for sure on the 2000 version.
Yeah.
If you want to get into that.
So, it depends on what we decide is the melody of the song.
Oh, okay.
So, in
the air is.
It's I'm sorry, we're in E flat. This run in the sky is right here. So, and then each day your memory goes dimmer and so on. I tend to think of that as the melody proper. So I don't know that he's necessarily singing a harmonic line separate from it. This 2000 version is a different story, and here I think your idea really applies. In 2000 and 2001, he starts doing the song in C, and does totally different chords for a large part of it, although my favorite chord is still there. And the way he sings the melody is different. I wonder if you and I can listen to it now, whether we include it, you can decide.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
it's getting harder.
yeah, correct.
There's a rumble in the sky.
Right.
I'm floating through muddy waters.
Right.
Right?
You got it.
That's certainly a harmony harder.
Right.
Yeah.
So there, I think he's not singing anything really that seems like the melody.
No.
Certainly not the melody from the record. The air's getting hotter. There's a rumbling in the sky. I'm going through the muddy water. And then it's over this chord progression that's this magical series of harmonies that are all like that butter chord from that one chord. It's sort of like the whole song is now infused with that spirit. Yeah. So one thing that I think is super cool here is on the studio version, the initial chords are really simple. 4, 5, 4, 1. This is in E flat. Those are 4, 5, and 1 are the most common chords in any key. And it's only when we get that we get something unusual. Here's what we have. Now we're in a different key. Apologies, it's C. The first chord, F major 7. D minor 7. Half diminished 7th, or D minor 7 flat 5. Right. E minor, A minor. One thing to notice, the chord C, which is the tonic chord, we're in the key of C, we're going to end up there. It sounds nowhere in here. It's only all of these harmonies surrounding
When you said it's in the key of C, I was looking at the chords, like, it starts at F major 7. How could that be possible?
Right. And then we get, there's that beautiful chord from the original version. And here for the first time, it doesn't help me like it did before, we get to tonic, C. But then the final stroke is marvelous.
I've been walking through the middle of nowhere, trying to get to heaven before they close the door.
So this
goes up close,
right?
But then does resolve on
does
C.
eventually
he does
resolve.
make it back there
but
somehow.
it delays, and there is the sense that there's sort of an additional rueful layer to the affect here. He's not pounding on the door, sort of wistfully hoping for it. And so we delay and we go to that beautiful F minor chord right there at the end. And so I think that plays into his hopping around with the vocal line where he's really not settling on the melody at all. And instead playing a sort of like, this is coming from one, this would be like the alto part, that's the tenor part. He's kind of leaping between registers in a way that you would never write a melody. I mean, one would not typically write a melody that leaps around that much.
This is pre-Love and Theft. This is pre-up-singing. This is like in 2000.
Up-singing is going on.
He's already doing it?
He's going on, yeah.
I sort of think of it in like the 2009 to 2012 era.
There's quite a bit in the early 2000s.
But in 2000, he's still riding the wave of how amazing this album was received. Right. Awards, fans, charts. Like, he was making money off of this album in a way that sort of the end of that era in the late 90s, right? And his singing is just gorgeous here. That he's singing that harmony up there the whole way through. And I don't know, Stephen, we talked a little bit about this, but is there anyone else who can sing harmony by themselves and it sounds like it's supposed to sound like? I don't know any other singer like Bob Dylan in that way.
I can't really think of an example of someone like that. And to be honest, until we talked a couple weeks ago, I had never thought about it in these terms, and I love the idea, because there is often a sense that there's a kind of phantom melodic presence there that's not actually being sounded, but that his voice is to this side or that side of it, above it or below it. And I can't really think of other singers who especially work that way. I would have to work at it.
I wouldn't even know how to sing the melody of whatever that is along with him.
Yeah, right.
It's just, he's unlocked something. And in your book, of course, you talk about the difficulty in singing with him, the sort of up and down of Joan Baez over the years, and like there's times where he's singing the harmony instead of Joan Baez, which is like insane, but he does what he wants to do. And then there's that great video of their last appearance singing Blowin' in the Wind together from the 80s, where you see the whole range of their entire relationship in about 15 seconds where like she looks over at him, she's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
She walks over, yells at him, walks over, rolls her eyes,
Yeah, right.
and then settles into this gorgeous harmony with a big smile on her face.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's sort and I also think about that the 10-year Amazon anniversary performance where he's doing I Shall Be Released with Norah Jones, but he's not really doing it with Norah Jones.
Right.
She's singing and he's singing,
Right.
but they're not singing together.
Right.
And I think that's a bad example of the sort of harmony singing. He's just sort of doing his own thing. And I don't really know what my point is, I guess, other than just that, like, I'm just sort of baffled by this. How did he come up with this concept of like singing harmony by himself?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's not a concept. I'm guessing in the sense that it was a conscious decision. I'm guessing this is his restless way.
Mm-hmm.
It's his restless way with, I'm singing this now, how am I going to sing it this time? And where am I going to settle my voice? You can hear this sometimes in outtakes when he's trying to figure out, like, okay, if I pick this key, he changes keys all the time.
Yes.
And sometimes he's changing keys so he can find a place to pitch his voice that feels comfortable. But as a result, sometimes he picks a different key and he ends up singing in a different location in the key than he just was a minute ago. Because, like, let's say he's doing something in F, and you decide, just gonna start on A here? No, I don't like F. Let's do D. Okay, now I'll start on A again, same note, but within the key, it has a different function. It's the third scale degree in one, the fifth scale degree in the other. Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes it just has to do with what's feeling like the sweet spot in the voice right now, and find a place with respect to a given key where it works. Can I just say one other thing also about Dylan singing with others? I mentioned some of this in the book club a couple weeks ago. I think there's a whole range going from like Dylan and Norah Jones or Dylan and Johnny Cash at one end. Dylan and Johnny Cash, they're drunk and happy, time. They're having a good time, so that's one thing.
And he's singing in that Nashville voice.
Right.
So.
But it's so ragged. Talk about two people singing at the same time. Yeah. Then you've got sort of Baez and Dylan in the middle, like, which I think of as her basically figuring out how to fit with his bobbing and weaving, you know? But then at the other extreme, there's the example that I mentioned a couple weeks ago, which is Clyde King in the gospel era, where they sing together as tight can be, and on
Abraham Martin and John at the piano. Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a reverence he has for, you know, like Clyde King, Mavis Staples, like he's behaving in a way where he's
Regina
like,
McCreary.
Yeah, he loves her. I mean, and even like with Mavis on that album, where they're doing their little bit together, you know, that little SNL sketch together. You could just see he's like in complete awe of them. So I think that gospel singers, I think he's like, oh, I better be serious here.
Yeah,
maybe.
Gail Wald has a wonderful chapter on Dylan's gospel music and talks specifically about how much he reveres these musicians. And I think I mentioned this in the book, one of the ways he shows that in those concerts in 79, 88, 81 is he lets them perform without it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of fans were certainly not happy about that, at least when they were first...
It takes him forever to come on stage, and they're singing. Then it takes him he leaves the stage and they're still going.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But I think...
Trouble no more for that.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In this version, in the album version, it is very driven. It is a piano song. It seems like a piano song. Here on the 2000 version and on the Bonnaroo version, which we can play too, it seems like a guitar. It's driven by the guitar. What do you make of sort of the differences?
I mean, I don't know. This is the Charlie and Larry band.
Yes.
You got two great guitarists.
Right. So Larry's probably is doing that pedal steel thing, or the glass or the bottleneck or something. Right?
Yeah, I don't remember.
It was pre-Donny Heron, so
yeah. Or playing that. And then, we get that beautiful.
Is that
let's
the
see,
chord?
here's how you'd voice it. I don't know. I think they had decided on an atmosphere for this arrangement, which was going to be mellower, more of these sort of jazz harmonies, and Dylan would be the choice to play the piano.
There's no piano yet.
There's no piano, and he doesn't play it in this band, right? And no one else is. So I think that it's sort of a process of elimination in that sense. Also, I'm sold on this performance right here at the opening. Like, oh, that's so good. It's got to be a guitar.
Yeah.
You've got this very sort of
It's romantic.
It's romantic.
Yeah.
It's I think a little bit of would it have been a hit around this time? Remember that song "Wicked Game"? Chris Isaac.
Yeah, sure.
So like this sort of like romantic twangy guitar
Yeah.
or something. There's a hint of that
Yeah.
in here. But there's always a question for me. This would have been Larry, Charlie, and Tony on guitars and bass. Like they're the ones in charge of the pitches, basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's always a question for me whose arrangement it was. These might not have been. Dylan doesn't tend to come up with chords like that.
No, he's probably noodling a little more. Can you hear what he's doing in that 2000?
I can't.
You can't. I couldn't. I was trying to. It was mostly.
There are many chances with this chord progression for bum notes. Like, were you to play harmonica, it's no question that this would be like an obstacle course. Because the diatonic harmonica only has a few choices, and there are a lot of funky pitches in here that would be easy to clash with.
Right.
So it's never obvious to me. It could also be it being who made the arrangement. It could also be that Dylan came up with some of the ideas sort of with Tony nearby. And that Dylan was at the piano and Tony's like, oh yeah, I think we could do this. And put them together in this particular way and sort of codify it for the band. This is going to be one that requires a chart, probably, at least to teach it. Or, maybe, it doesn't take too long to learn the chords. Maybe you just talk it through a few times in rehearsal, you can memorize
Those guys are
it.
such pros.
Yeah. But it's nevertheless more elaborate than studio chart.
Let's talk about this live for a second, since we've sort of opened up the floodgates here. So Trying to Get to Heaven, according to BobDylan.com, has been performed 287 times, while according to BobServe.com,
it's like 340.
334 times.
Yeah.
So I
Bob Serve is right.
I talked to Deliricus about it, who moderates and is the founder of Bob Serve, and he said it is of all the songs where there's been a discrepancy, this one has the largest discrepancy.
Really?
Yeah, because it's now become a little bit of a bit here on Songs of Experience to show those two. I used to just go to BobDylan.com and knowing full well that there are lyric mistakes in BobDylan.com, sometimes intentional, sometimes not, and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, 334 seems to be the correct number, and that's not including sound checks. This is actual in concert.
Yes.
300. So that puts it 58th on the all-time live list. That's no slouch of a song.
Not too bad.
He likes playing this.
Yeah.
He liked playing this one live. Listen to where it's sandwiched between. It's below its album mate, "Make You Feel My Love" by Few, and above "The Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll."
Wow.
Which I've seen him many times.
Yeah.
So Stephen, have you ever seen Bob Dylan live? And if so,
Sure.
have you ever caught a Trying to Get to
I
Heaven?
haven't heard this song.
Oh.
No, I've seen him live plenty, but I've never heard this song. Have you?
I saw it 4 times in the mid-2000s, and then because it was on that static 2019 set list, I
yes.
saw it twice. You didn't see him in 2019?
I didn't see him in 2019. Yeah, and that...
So you never caught a Lenny Bruce then, either?
I didn't. Yeah, 2019 was an eventful year in my life in which going to shows was curtailed.
Okay, I see.
But, yeah,
were you chasing it, or was it just one you've missed? Or
it was one I missed.
Yeah.
That 2019 version is also great. He goes back to E major, does something totally different. The chords, he doesn't have this fancy chord there anymore, does something different, and messes around with the melody quite a bit as well.
It also feels very guitar driven.
Yeah, it is.
Charlie's back in the band at that point. Even though Bob's playing piano, you can't really hear the piano so well. I don't know. Do you have that one?
I do. Yeah, let's see if we
version.
pull it.
Because it seems like it's like he sort of when Charlie came back for a couple of years there. It seemed like Bob was kind of. It was both reinvigorated by him, but also Charlie had the handcuffs on, like he wasn't allowed to solo.
I know.
It was like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, he became
and then
tasteful to a fault.
yeah,
Tasteful almost into inaudibility.
Right.
Too much of the time for my.
you would get about one time a song. You get the kneel, the hair whip, and then that like really gorgeous chord with this gigantic ring. Like, oh, Charlie.
Yeah. So let's give a little listen here.
Short too. It's only 4:47.
I know. So already different.
Yeah.
Now listen to what they do here.
What key are they in here?
E.
E. Okay.
So a good, honest guitar key. They changed things around.
Sort of a blues kind of EAB.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sort of a Bo Diddley rhythm or something like that, but sort of more down tempo. But then when they get to this Every Day Our Memory Grows Dimmer, this is where we would have had that fancy chord, which in this key would be, you think that you've lost everything. Find out you can always lose a little more. Instead of doing that, he does this. Sort of like Rick Springfield or something,
Or Desolation Row.
Yeah, oh yeah, could be that.
Postcards are hanging.
Yeah. So we're in E, and they've just gone up to an F sharp major chord, which is a little unusual. He does this chord a few times. And there's one unusual note here, which is this one. That's not in the key, but it is in that gorgeous chord from the other versions. This is the note that we call sharp 4, and so it's one of these. It's like a nerve. It's like a sensitive note in the key. And he finds a different way to work it in here, or Tony or whoever is sort of coming up with the arrangement. But this is one I could easily imagine Dylan having completely come up with on his own. And they just sit on that chord for the entire B section, and then we go back to E major for the last two lines.
Now this is one of those Dylan songs that doesn't have a chorus. It resolves on a line every time. Tangled Up in Blue.
That's right.
Desolation Row.
Murder Most Foul.
Right. So, do you take this? We were talking about the Watchtower and looking at Bob Dylan's songs literally, but is this a song that sort of, to you, encapsulates what was going on for Bob around Time Out of Mind in terms of his heart illness and the near-death experience and like sort of the lore around this album? I mean, even the title, Time Out of Mind, like time's running out, the door is closing, I'm trying to crack it open. Like, is he? Do you think that this song sort of is like the cornerstone of that idea?
Yeah, I don't know if I would. There's so many candidates for that on the record.
Standing in the doorway.
Yeah. We're not there yet.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another great new 2019 arrangement.
Yeah.
If this goes well, Stephen, I'd love to
do
talk to you about that.
Oh, I would love
I'm
to
obsessed
talk
with that
about
arrangement.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's a record about ultimate things, and there is something in Bob Dylan that goes all the way back to Blowin' in the Wind, which is gesturing toward the thing that's just out of reach. This is just sort of the typical. It happens in so many, like questions that you just can't quite answer.
Which what makes
liminal,
his songs so timeless.
Right. Yeah. And this is the refrain that he has is one of those. It's not like, I got there, they opened the door for me and whatnot. No, I was just trying, still trying, before they closed the door. Grayle's got a great line about this too, about the wording being a little weird. Like, it sounds a little bit like a going out of business sale. This is his line. I think it's his line. It's true. He quotes it in the book.
That's fine.
It's like, oh, everything must go.
Right.
Before they close the door, you gotta.
Right.
So there's something I think kind of wry about it. There's the obvious connection to Knocking on Heaven's Door as well. But yeah, the form is a verse refrain song. Verse refrain form is present in about, I did a talk a while back on bridges and Dylan songs and tallied all these things up. About 2/3 of his songs are in verse refrain form. All that means is that there is no chorus, there is no pre-chorus, there is no bridge.
He's not a bridge guy. He's not Taylor Swift in that way.
He does have them.
He does have
just
them,
not as common.
It's not like a thing.
That's right. I mean, when you think about the archetypal Bob Dylan songs that you just mentioned, like Tangled Up in Blue, Desolation Row, Shelter from the Storm, Simple Twist of Fate, you name it. These are verse-refrain songs. You've got a florid verse with lots of detail, and then it's always going to lead you to that line. But one of the pleasures is you never know exactly what angle you're going to approach it from.
I mean, it's sort of two different ways of storytelling through song, and if I can mention her again for a moment, Taylor Swift. So she is such a master of telling stories, both linearly and sort of just referencing things, but through mostly versed chorus, bridge, killer bridge that knocks you on your and then back to the familiar chorus that now all of a sudden feels totally different. Like it means something else after
having gone to the bridge.
Right. Dylan, though, he tells stories. Tangled Up in Blue is such a cinematic story, for example, and it always ends with that line that feels both. It's like coming home. It's so secure, and that also it means something different after each of those little mini stories. I think, and so. Just as one little other Taylor Swift aside, I'm sorry, but I noticed that Trying to Get to Heaven is track 5 of this album, and I don't know if Bob Dylan is and was how specific he is with where he wants track placement on albums. I've always wondered about this. For Taylor Swift, track 5 is always a heartbreaker. It's always one that just absolutely crushes you, and I had never noticed this before, that this was track 5. I was like, I wonder, because this is such I'm so deep embedded in this album by the time we get to Trying to Get to Heaven. You are in this world of Time Out of Mind that everything to me is in black and white. I'm just it's a little smoky and hazy, and I feel sad but also hopeful. And so I don't know. I don't know if there's anything there, but I always wonder about Dylan's track placement.
Yeah, I do too, and I don't know how much that has to do with producer. I would imagine, this is of course famously his last one, where he has a producer who is not himself.
Right, and it famously didn't go so well.
Like Arguments in the Parking Lot and so forth.
Right.
So I would imagine producers also have a hand in tracking. Lovesick has to be the first song. Highlands has to be the last song. Trying to Get to Heaven could not be the first song. No. Lovesick sets up, and I wish I could think of what key it's in.
E minor.
E minor?
Yeah. Another E minor song.
But imagine that it's in organ, right? These sort of.
But when they did it live, it was in guitar in those days.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it establishes this sort of ominous tone right away.
That opening line on Walk In, that gravelly voice.
Yeah. So it obviously has to be first. Beyond that, I think often it's a question of contrast, and Cold Iron's Bound is going to be it's not going to be next to another banger, there's going to be a banger, and then there's going to be something that's held back a little more. I think he does this in set lists too.
Yes.
He has a good sense as a showman, as a song and dance man, what works. Don't string together 6 ballads or 6 whatever you want to call them down-tempo songs. It's going to be a drag. It's going to start to sag. You got to get Summer Days in there, or something like that to pick up the energy.
Even now, with the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour, which is a very specific type of thing.
Right.
There is an ebb and flow. We've noticed, Mike and I noticed that like there's a lot of pairings of songs together, like It's All Over Now, Baby Blue with I've Made Up My Mind to Give Myself to You and things like that. Having Desolation Row and Key West so close together just like crushes me.
But Desolation Row now in a more sort of jaunty
it's an upbeat, like kind of bluesy.
It's not a dreamy, like surreal 1966 whatever.
It's sort of closer to that like Forest Hills funny version.
Yeah, right. That people are laughing at.
Yeah. Interesting. Can we talk about the harmonica?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like he goes away. He goes away from harmonica. He comes back to harmonica in over the decades live, and certainly like there was a long period where it's like, is he ever gonna play harmonica again? And like even in the 5 years of the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour, it was like no harmonica until Every Grain of Sand, and then all of a sudden to open I've Made Up My Mind to Give Myself to You, he's playing harmonica, things like that.
Right.
And we just saw him recently in Dublin. He only played it twice, I think, maybe 3 times. The harmonica on this, it's the only harmonica on the whole album. And like, that just sounds insane. Like a Bob Dylan album that only has one harmonica song. I think Rough and Rowdy Ways also has that.
Yeah.
What do you make of their harmonica playing? The very simple...
The one note.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think it's great. I mean,
it kind of works, right? It's very faint too. It feels like it's underneath.
Yeah.
Maybe it's underneath that Lenoir stuff, but...
I don't know. I mean, I later thought, there's a chapter on the harmonica in the book, and I later thought, I wish I had talked about this solo. It's the only one I know that's almost a one-note solo. He later breaks out. He breaks out right at this moment, That's the moment where...
Can you play the little note that's happening?
So this is what he's doing. I can't really play both.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes, no, it's perfect.
But then he goes
up, right? Yeah.
Up here to the C, when we get that lovely chord that I keep talking about.
Yeah.
So that's a moment where I think it really sort of breaks open. One thing I write about in the book is I talk about eloquence in his harmonica playing. Not all of it. Some of it's wild and wall-to-wall. I'm thinking of like 1966 first set, acoustic sets, where solos are just like sweeping and chugging nonstop. But especially later, Every Grain of Sand, the studio version, is a great instance of this. Will sometimes go into a very reduced style of harmonica playing, where it's a style of subtraction, doing less, not more. If you can think of that solo in Every Grain of Sand on the record. Something like that, right? Basically just 3 notes. E flat, F, and G. That's all.
But it's the melody.
But it is, and it's so good. It's like, if he overdid it, it's such a delicate song,
It's sort of,
You could. It's like a butterfly. If you're like, you can't step
Don't touch
on
its
it.
wings. Yeah.
This song, it strikes me a little bit that way. That the subtraction makes the negative space, the notes he's not playing, that much more charged.
That's a very Bob Dylan thing, what he's not playing often.
Yeah.
I mean, especially right now and live, like with these sparse arrangements of just him and piano and a little bit of like drums, kind of in free time. Do you think if he had played harmonica more like the melody on the song, it wouldn't be this song then? Like if he had actually played the melody of...
Yeah, I mean, he could have played, or Up Beyond Renato. He Rise Into My Eyes.
There's something...
You could do it. I mean, it'd be easily done on an E flat harmonica, but I think it'd be kind of a bummer. This seems to me, the one note thing, sort of like the harmonica version of, what you've been talking about with singing, a harmony pitch rather than a melody pitch. It's also a little bit like what the viola player would do in a string quartet or something. That's like a viola note. The viola player doesn't get the melody. They get something down in the insides, and that's kind of what that pitch is like.
Interesting. First, why do you think he chose to not have any other harmonica on the album?
Good question. I mean, we all know the album so well by now, it's hard to imagine it otherwise.
Yeah, right.
But when I was
Well,
just
like a Dirt Road Blues
Yeah,
or
Dirt Road
something,
Blues it
or
could
like.
be. But Dirt Road Blues.
He did harmonica on Lovesick It live sometimes,
Yeah.
like, you know.
But with the arrangement tweaked in such a way that it fit. Like, I can't imagine it on the studio one.
Right.
Now, could just be because I've always heard the studio one without harmonica.
Right.
The song I talk about the most in the book is Hard Rain, which is also not a harmonica song. And I wonder about that in the book. Like, so why is this? I had a couple answers on that song, one of which was, it's a question and answer song in the ballad tradition. And to insert a harmonica solo interrupts the back and forth of this. You get the sense instead that the parent is always like, but wait, but what did you hear?
What did you hear, yeah.
Well, what did you do? And what will you do? And so on. And that there wouldn't be a pause, you know. The other thing I think is that that's an overstuffed song lyrically.
Right, it's so long.
It's
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
and there's just so much affect. There's so much emotion throughout it. Sometimes the harmonica is a place to kind of press out additional emotional oomph, additional affect. And I sort of wonder and I'm getting back to Time Out of Mind, wonder with Hard Rain if it's not needed to press out. The song that seems to be a counterexample to this is Desolation Row, which is of course a harmonica solo song.
And very long.
Yeah.
And very wordy.
And very long and wordy. But, you know, some people will disagree. I don't know that I think of Desolation Row as, it's not a heartbreaker of a song. It's a surreal song.
Yeah.
It's like a Bosch painting. You know, it's overstuffed with fantastical characters. And early on, it struck people as funny, rightfully so.
Yeah,
but
the
it's
version
not
has
one
the Spanish guitar on it.
Right, yeah,
which is
exactly.
so like
ethereal with Charlie
yeah.
McCoy.
Yeah.
It's not a tearjerker
No.
of a song. I mean, it's got
It does make
it's
me
got
cry
its
when
moments.
it makes me cry every time I hear it.
Yeah.
But that's just because it's a favorite.
Yeah, it's a wonderful song.
Yeah.
But it is a harmonica song. Tambourine Man, also
Right.
a harmonica song.
Yeah.
The same thing.
It's like you kind of have to have harmonica in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Bonnaroo one is the pedal steel or the slide guitar or whatever. It's not. I don't think it's Donnie Herron yet because I don't think it's there
It
yet.
could be. Is
It's
it Bucky
2004.
Baxter?
Well, 2004.
2004.
It's Larry. I think was still there. It's the end of Larry's
Yeah.
tenure, and so he's either playing like a slide or a. But it seems like very driven by that.
This is the one. So they're basically about 4 arrangements of the song.
Right.
This is the second big one.
It's that slide, the pedal steel is playing the melody of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we've got the Bonnaroo we're listening to right now. Bob Dylan on piano and harp, Larry Campbell on guitar, slide guitar, cittern, pedal steel, fiddle, Stu Kimball on guitar, Tony Garnier on bass, George Russell.
So Larry is playing pedal steel here.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, that's
Yeah.
a pedal steel.
Yeah.
You can tell from the bent, that's the use
Yeah.
of the pedal there. Yeah, I mean, he's a fine pedal steel player. And this is very slide forward.
Yeah.
This arrangement.
Oh yeah. That's what I was saying. It seems like this arrangement is kind of around that. What did you find? What differences did you find? The other ones we didn't talk about was the one from was it Italy or
Yeah, Trento, I think 2008.
So
I
let's-
put
let's-
on there. This one is actually quite close to the studio record.
Yeah.
It's just a whole step lower, and I think the main thing is how prominent the pedal steel is. The one from 2008 has a really interesting different arrangement where the melody is totally different. This is another one where you might make the case, following your thesis, that he's singing something harmonic rather than a melody line.
Oh, this is the organ here.
You can hear it. We're in A flat, another non-guitar key. That's the real signature of this version. But you really get the difference when he starts to sing, where we get this.
Oh yeah.
The air's getting hotter.
That's this one.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
This arrangement stuck around for a while.
Really?
Yeah, 4 years maybe. I think 2008 to maybe 2012.
Wow.
And he played it quite a bit in this era.
This must have been one that he really enjoyed playing live. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, and it's not one that he's like constantly tinkering with. Like you
Right.
said, like it lasted 4 years.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I wonder about when a song sticks around for a long time, or tends to come back a lot and is performed relatively frequently, it's one that wears well, is my guess. That you don't get sick of, that seems to have potential that you can find repeatedly, that fulfills a certain role in a set that's often needed to fulfill, like something's got to fulfill that role. This is typically a down-tempo number, it's a little more introspective. You're always going to need moments like that in the set. And it could well be that this one just sort of fit the bill with multiple set lists over the years. But I wonder about the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour, or the set, from 2013 to whatever it was, 19. If his keeping that set so static was how much it was ornery, like things have changed, no, things have not changed, this is still the same set. And how much of it really was, no, I just really think this set works and it wears well. Like, I want to do Things Have Changed, or I want to do like Key West every night, Key West, and all of those other songs off Rough and Rowdy Ways. Sometimes it feels to me a little bit like what he's doing with songs off a recent album is breaking them in. It's like you break in a horse or something, Like, oh, well, this one's a little, and we see that with this song actually. The first 8 or so live performances, he's trying out various things.
Is that like 98 or so? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not until we get to 2000 that they get that totally different arrangement and it stays put for a couple years. It's like, oh, we tried a few things. And, there are some songs that have been broken in, a long, long time ago that now he's tinkering with a bunch. So maybe my theory doesn't hold, like Baby Blue right now. Like, just over recent years, it's gone through so many different arrangements and keys and grooves and so forth.
I think a couple things. One, I think Rough and Rowdy Ways is its own thing. I think that it is an art piece that is specific sort of to itself. I think you either take it or you leave it. And if you go to see it, it's like seeing a Broadway show. Like, this is the Rough and Rowdy Ways thing.
Right.
I think on the one hand, there were those years where every night was kind of different, other than those like the standard ones, like Rolling, the
Watchtower, Rolling Stone,
Summer Days, right. Thunder on the Mountain later, things like that, or opening up with, I don't know, Things Have Changed, and like you said, or something like that. But everything else in the middle was different. I think with Trying to Get to Heaven, it's kind of one of those ones where, on the one hand, yes, something needs to go there, that sort of down tempo, but it's familiar enough that you know it if you know the album, and it kind of feels special, like, oh, we gotta Trying to Get to Heaven.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I would feel. I've only heard it 4 times, and I've seen it a lot. So I know if and when I did hear it, like I remember being in 2019 being thrilled it was on the set list, like knowing I was gonna get one. And I think like 2019 was the sort of the tryout for the live Rough and Rowdy Way thing. And so I think that, like, Bob kind of liked that. Like, what if I could do, and I think that led to Shadow Kingdom, which then
Right,
led
sure.
to, so I think Bob kind of liked that Shadow Kingdom thing. Like, oh, what if I can present a whole finished piece together without these little things? So
I've always thought of the Rough and Rowdy Ways tour as at least early on I did, as the Shadow Kingdom / Rough and Rowdy Ways tour.
Yeah.
Because the songs that are earlier songs that he brings back, at least initially, are very much in the style of the Shadow Kingdom arrangements. And, you know, this is it was a COVID project that allowed him to breathe life into these songs again, and then he's preserved that spirit for a while.
Yeah, it's amazing. Stephen, is there anything else you want to say about this song, or about your book, or about? Did I ask you enough questions about the book?
You did. Plenty.
I have to say, like, this book, we were talking about Bob Dylan as being, Bob Dylan books all over your apartment. I'm noticing things. Oh, I have that. Oh, I don't have that. And I think he's like the third most written about person besides like Jesus and Abraham Lincoln or something like that.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's so if you're wondering like what do we need another Bob Dylan book for? Like I truly believe that this is the most original Bob Dylan book I've read. I'm like getting emotional. Stephen sitting here with you. Like it is so different than any other Bob Dylan book, and I'm so grateful to you that you over the last 10 years you toiled over this and really brought it to the world, and I really want people to read it. And one of the great things about it is there are musical cues in it. You can you have QR codes where you can listen to these examples. And whereas on my podcast I can't play examples, reading your book you can. Even this morning I was reviewing my notes and going through some stuff, and I was telling my family about it, and my wife was like, "Really? There are QR codes to listen to the?" It's like. That's such a gift to us, to the Bob Dylan, I would say, like academic community, but also to just fans to have this reference. Thank you for adding it to the lexicon of Bob Dylan writing.
I'm really touched. Thank you. I mean, one thing that I say in the book, and that's very much true, is I've learned a ton from the Bob Dylan fan community. It's a very loquacious community. There's a lot of writing, fan writing, reviews. You've got Bob Links up here. There's a paper to be written about the genre of the Bob Dylan concert review as it's sort of taken shape on Bob Links. And so it is gratifying and heartening to me if folks within that community are also reading it, because I've learned a lot from fans. There are fans out there who have seen so many more shows than I have and know a ton, and I have a lot of respect for it. So I'm thrilled if this can add a little bit to the conversation.
Great. It adds so much. Where can folks find the book or find you, and if they want to talk to you or
your favorite bookseller? It's
57th Street Books here in Hyde Park.
There are copies on the Seminary Co-op front table in Hyde Park. I just saw. It's available all over the place. So and I'm the website is called soundingbobdylan.com. Once I get past the launch here, there's going to be some new content coming out on there. I'm going to have some talks that I've given, other little think pieces and so forth. So that's going to be more of an entity in itself in the coming months.
Great, thank you so much. So the book is What Did You Hear? The Music of Bob Dylan. We are here with Stephen Rings. Thank you again, Stephen. This was great.
Thanks so much, Henry.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. Look for the next episode on the 15th day of the month in all of your podcast feeds. If you're subscribing to Apple Podcasts, please take a moment and give us a rating or review. It's the best way to spread the word about the show. For a video version of the podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Songs of Bob Dylan. You can, of course, email us at songsofbobdylan@gmail.com. Thank you to my friend and mentor, Rob Kelly, for designing our fabulous logo, and to my mandolin teacher, Mark Mitchell, from the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago, for teaching me how to play the intro and the outro. If you'd like to help support the cost of hosting my podcasts, go to patreon.com/gonzo3249. For $5, I'll show my gratitude by giving you a shout out. So thank you to Rob Kelly, Joachim Meckel, Roberta Rakove, Matt Simonson, Christopher Vani. For $10, I'll send you a surprise piece of vintage Bob Dylan merch. So thank you to the girl from the North Country, Katie Sorovic. Thank you to my Substack subscribers, Mark Godfrey, Linda Maltzby, George Pasella, Bonnie Ramba, Nancy Cobb, and Peter White. You can check that out at henrybernstein.substack.com. Truly, I love you all. Thank you again, and see you next time.